This is a town hall meeting for independent living. We will have another one tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. here in chapel. You do not need to attend both meetings because we'll be covering covering the same topics. For the 55 plus, we are doing a separate meeting for them. So if anyone's in here that's a 55 plus resident, you don't need to be in this meeting, just so that we don't confuse you. Just so you guys know, we gave the 55 plus dates and times of when they want to have their town hall meeting, and only 6 people out of 65 residents turned in sheets, and of the 6, only 1 sheet had 2 or 3 questions on it. So we're probably going to have to pick a different time and day and a different time to do a 55 town hall meeting at a later time. For this meeting, we've had about 50 to 55 questions from residents that were asked. The idea behind this town hall is to kind of go through those questions. We're not going to go through all of them, but Laura has picked certain ones that are similar, and she'll go over them. And we also asked our staff to kind of ask us questions from what they kind of hear from residents. So she'll be going over those questions and answers as well. There will not be a question and answer after Laura goes through her questions. That's just kind of to preserve time. So without further ado, if you guys want to give a round of applause to our administrator, Laura CHIPCAST.
I feel like you told me this was going to be really loud. Good morning, everybody. I will try not to make too many bumping noises. I have a lot of pieces of paper here. I chose to just combine everything that was sent in. I don't know about you, but that daylight savings time is running havoc on me, so excuse me if I yawn a lot. That 1 hour just does not work well for me. So one of the things that I wanted to start with was the employee or staff questions that they hear the most, because from their point of view, they're getting the same repeat conversation, the same repeat questions, and that covered quite a few of the questions that some of the residents who thank you for all of the questions did turn in. Some of these answers are short and sweet, and some of them take a little bit longer. My goal is to say everything that I can in as few and simple words as possible. Some of the topics are a little more detailed, and I could probably talk for an hour on each topic, but it gets so detailed that I think at some point in time it loses the majority of the effect that most people want and becomes an isolated question. So we were trying to make sure that we talk as a whole. That way it's addressing the majority of the residents' questions and concerns. So let's see, our first question, which I thought was a great question. Why is the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing no longer present at the town halls or resident councils? Apparently, prior to me coming here, there was a resident referral program, and the Senior Sales and Marketing Director was responsible for that program. I believe the first resident council that I was at, she actually came and did an announcement. There's like a drawing, there's a couple different ways you can get the referrals, and I never saw her do it after that. So we are going to roll that back out again. Some of you may know that we have replaced our Senior Sales and Marketing Director. She started last Monday. I've been spending a majority of my time with her. She comes from a campus, a couple different campuses farther north, and that was one of her questions actually too. So we're both on the same page that is very important. So we are going to review and roll back out that program. I don't think it's going to make any significant changes. I don't know the program in detail, but we want to make sure that we get that rolled back out, because obviously that's a benefit to everyone in the room. It's going to be beneficial for you to have your friends your peers that you've wanted to live with, maybe your old neighbors, whoever you like to live with next to before, come in. And who doesn't want a little bit of a discount off their rent for that? I would. It would be great. So we are going to get that rolled back out, and the goal is to have it start in April at the latest. But I will definitely be pushing that with Logan. That is our new senior sales and marketing director's name, Logan. She will be around to get introductions shortly, not per se at this meeting, but I will put her on CHIPCAST, and she's going to be in the April newsletter. So that is question number 1. Number 2. This comes from IT. These are questions that IT says they get a lot. What is the Wi-Fi password for the residents? It's never changed. It's the same as it's always been, HFV residents. Resident, no S. This is in welcome packets. It's not in the lease, but it's in the welcome packet. Obviously, if you don't have the Wi-Fi, you can't see it on Odyssey. So we are going to make sure that it is posted on the bulletin boards as well, but it is in all new welcome resident packets. And Kim Selesky, I know, helps a lot of people get hooked up, as well as Bill when he does his new resident orientation. He also goes over this. So we don't plan to change it just because so many of you have been operating with that as the password for so long. Why change it? Just one more thing to confuse everybody. Does IT or building services hang TVs? No, they do not hang TVs regularly. They do hang TVs as a work order that is a paid service. If you need a TV hung, you would contact building services. You can go through the main line, which goes to more of a recording unless Shannon's sitting there and can answer the phone. Most often, she's going to have it go to a recording where you leave a message on what your need is, and she can call you back if she doesn't understand fully what you need, or if she needs to make sure that you're aware there's maybe a charge with that. And then it goes into a work order system. The work order system is done by priority. So if somebody says my garbage disposal isn't working versus somebody says I'd like to hang a painting, the garbage disposal is going to get a little bit more priority than the painting. Obviously, the goal is to get everything accomplished as soon as possible, which we've hired 2 new maintenance techs. So we have, I want to knock on wood, but I feel like it's going to be really loud here. We have a full maintenance team for the first time since I've been here, which is very exciting. And they all seem to be on board and very handy young men, which is not that easy to find these days because the trades is just suffering. So back to the question, building services will hang the TV, and they hang it for a cost. And all costs are on the ancillary service sheet, which is in the contracts. And I don't believe any of the costs actually went up. They put out a new one, just new dates in 2024, but it didn't go up. And then they're also on Odyssey. Okay, Mike Lewinsky gave us a lot of questions about safety and security. What time should residents open their front door for latch check? So that begins at 10 a.m. I don't know if there's rhyme or reason behind which apartment it begins at, which building it begins at, and it just depends on what's going on for that day. Let's say, for example, I'm supposed to be doing latch check, and a bunch of things have happened, so I don't start it until 10:30, quarter to 11. that's when it becomes more of an all hands on deck, and you may even see Britt doing some of the latch checks. So the goal is to get that done as soon as possible. So by 10 a.m., if you happen to be the first building and your latch is not off, they may knock on your door just to see if you're okay. There are people that are opting out of latch check, and that question starts to be, how are we going to track that? There's a lot of paper and a lot of names that change frequently, so we are trying to find a system that's more up to date than just somebody walking and doing all of that, because a lot of you walk this campus. Well, that is amazing exercise. That is a lot of walking for people to do twice a day. It takes approximately 6 hours for a latch check to be completed. So we're looking at a couple different systems that are more up to speed, where it would just kind of be a monitoring system where it would show that somebody's moved. But we know that any type of system that we put into place here could potentially become very cumbersome because of the fact that we'd have to rewire. This building was wired 30 years ago. The type of wiring that is needed is not the same, and none of that is going to come at a small cost. But our goal is to get a more efficient system in the future, so we are looking at some different kinds, and we may ask people to trial out a new system for us to see if they like it, if we like it, and if it works. Do you need to show your resident ID when approaching the gate? He says, yes, it's needed when entering the property. So there's barcode stickers that most of the residents that have been here for a while have. Believe it or not, for some reason, you cannot buy barcode stickers anymore, which is strange to me because there's still a lot of barcodes in our world. What we've done is partnered with a couple different alarm companies to see, is this the time that we change our alarm company, or is it the time that we just put in a different solution? The current thought process is that we're going to put in a different solution. So if you don't have a barcode sticker, you currently have to go through the same gate as all the visitors or staff have to go through, which I've never seen a line too bad. Maybe 4 or 5 cars I've seen at one point in time. That's right at shift change in the morning. So right now, that is the current process, and the goal is, just as you go in and out of the doors, you see the little box that you have to hold your little card up to let you in. The goal is to get a larger one of those so that you can hold your card out of the window and it would get the gate to open up. That is the current recommendation from Guardian. That is relatively cost effective, and so the plan is, from my point of view, to look at the cost effectiveness of it, considering the fact that we have so many other things we want to spend money on. If we go to a completely new alarm company system, you're talking upwards of $200,000 to rewire the campus and to get a different system in here. What is the pull cord used for? That should be major medical emergencies only. That is I can't get to somebody, somebody needs to get to me, whether it be that you feel like something is happening and you maybe can't talk, or there might be 2 people in the apartment and somebody wants to stay with you want to stay with somebody, but you know you have an emergency situation, you would pull that cord. Obviously, if you've fallen in one place and the cord is in another place, it doesn't work, but the system was put in place for that purpose, just to have access to an emergency pull cord system. One of the things that's happening is there's some people pulling the cord to say they want to talk to the social worker. That's not a medical emergency. Joe is a really nice guy. We all like to talk with him, but it's not a medical emergency. So those are not for the same kind of concept as when you're in the hospital and you want to see the nurse, or if you're over at a skilled care facility and you need assistance. It is basically just an emergency cord. Mike wants me to be making sure I let everybody know, and none of these processes at this point in time are new. I think they're just forgotten processes for whatever reason, which if any of you were ever involved when a company changes over, it's a miracle how many things just magically get forgotten when somebody tells them not to forget anything. If you overuse or abuse the pull cord and it takes security away from what they're supposed to be doing, you can get a charge for that. Now, I always like to tell my team, I'm not just gonna slap charges on everybody's bill if it happens once. Do your best to evaluate the situation case-by-case basis. So if we have a resident that pulls the cord and they pulled it a couple times, and we keep explaining this is not an emergency, you should not pull the cord, we may have to have Joe evaluate if they're able to have that memory recall to understand that. If they don't have that memory recall to understand that, that is when we contact the emergency contact person or the family member that we know is here the most to explain what the concerns are that we have. We will explain that there is some cognition issues. We will explain that if it continues to happen, we will end up having to make charges. And then we will also offer assistance to see what families want to do. Do you want to get a caregiver? We can give you the resource for that. Is this time to be looking and considering, is this potential to move to an assisted living type situation? Our goal here is independent living with services that are available through resources. So we can't just keep doing for some because we feel like we should. We have to treat everybody the same way. So if one person, if I'm constantly pulling the cord, but everybody loves Laura, so it doesn't, and nobody wants to charge me, but Mike pulls his cord and they want to charge him, it doesn't work that way. We have to give the same consideration to everybody. However, we do try to give notice. Does setting off the smoke alarm require security to come and check everything is okay? Yes, it does. I know some of these smoke alarms can be highly sensitive. It's happened in my own home. The toaster or even heat can sometimes set them off. But we do, if there is some apartment that looks like it may have more of an issue, which I think after this amount of time they would have identified that, we could consider if we need to move it. However, for the most part, we've never had issues like that. We do have some people, consistently maybe, aren't the better cooks, and they tend to set it off a little more often. We won't tell who you are, but that can also end up resulting in charges if you're setting off the smoke alarm every week and we have to come up to talk to you about putting your vent on or not forgetting to flip your bacon. I'm not sure. It's bacon and toast. Bacon and toast, that's what it is. Okay. We're going to go to dining. All of the questions regarding dining are pretty much around two topics. One is just specific products. Skim milk, 2% milk, whole milk. For whatever reason, since the beginning of my food service background, this is not as easy as you would think it is. The people that bring us our milk or dairy or bread, they are a middleman, so they may be out of things too. And we have to put in an order in advance. They don't always tell you that they don't have it because they may be, say our order gets delivered on Tuesday and they get their delivery on Monday, they may think they're gonna have it. Then Monday comes around and they don't have the amount that they thought they were gonna have. So they might do their delivery based on first come, first serve. It's set up, obviously, if I'm the delivery person and this is my region, I'm gonna go to the farthest areas and circle back. So some people might get it and some people might not. They just credit us at the end. It really is not something that we have any control over, unfortunately. And this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. As a matter of fact, there was no shelled eggs available pretty much most places, but even at Gordon's, we couldn't get shelled eggs the other day. I don't know if we can have chickens here, because that might be the answer, because I know a lot of people are getting chickens everywhere. There's often, I went to 3 stores the other day and there was no shelled eggs at any store. And one of them was Sam's Club, who has a limit of 2 cartons per person because it's really that hard to get shelled eggs right now. I'm not gonna go into all the conspiracy about eggs. But anytime we have things like milk or things like that, that we have one and not the other, it's not a preference from necessarily the department to do it. Obviously, if we ordered skim milk and really we couldn't even go through a carton of skim milk in a day, then we're not going to keep ordering it for like 4 or 5, because you have to order in bulk. But for the most part, things like that are more or less, it just comes down to if the middleman, not us, has access to it. Carryouts. So there's been a lot of drama over carryouts. The choice was made to go back to the original process that made sense for a lot of reasons. We have 2 different places that you are really only worried about carryouts for: Great Lakes and St. Clair. St. Clair is a buffet. You can't take a carryout from any buffet anywhere. Not gonna happen. They won't let you take it. If you're out in the world, everybody remembers Ponderosa. I used to work there. Now we have Golden Corral, and I'm not sure of the other places. You can't take carryouts from there. They won't let you. The reason being that obviously somebody might go get a second plate with a goal to take it as a carryout. So we're trying to make sure that we don't have to limit what foods we're putting in St. Clair. I'll use the ribs and chicken as the example. Forecasting for these dining rooms is not easy. I don't know if anybody's ever forecasted a meal for hundreds of people, not knowing if everybody's gonna decide that day where they wanna eat or not. And there's no RSVP. So imagine, ladies, the largest Thanksgiving dinner that you cooked, not knowing who was gonna come to your day, and you just have to try to guess. So the last time Stacy forecasted ribs and chicken, they ran out with 6 people wanting ribs and chicken. That was a good forecast. If I would have forecasted that, you'd have probably ran out long before. So the thought at first was, should we just not serve something that is too hard to control or that is gonna be overly popular? We can see shifts happen. If we serve ribs in Great Lakes, the shift. If we serve ribs in St. Clair, the shift. So Stacy said, instead of trying to compete on those days, she's gonna put those items in both places just to make life a little bit easier on everybody that lives here and everybody that works here. So that way we should not have that issue again. As for the actual carryouts in Great Lakes, she's revising the statement that she initially put out to say that they will box that up for you. So many of you have been eating in Great Lakes, and since the day of the meeting where we said we were not going to be boxing it, they have been taking the plate to the back and boxing it for people. Again, the idea and thought is to box it for you, put it in the bag, and bring it out so that way no additional items can be put in it. There's a lot of people that think that maybe we should just tell individual people, hey, you can't have this, no, don't do that. We are talking to individual people. I can't tell you with 100% certainty on every individual that does this. Do they have a concern where they need assistance with meals in the financial end of it? Or is this just a habit of trying to hoard some things? It's a little bit of both. And if we identify that it is a financial concern, they can meet with Joe, who is the resource to get them hooked up with different places that can provide assistance for meals. Because obviously we only do the one meal credit, and maybe they need assistance getting more food, so Joe can provide all of that assistance. So when I say Joe is a resource, what Joe does is he will have to look at possibly your finances and see what you bring in, because the resources available to independent living, which I can be honest, I'm not overly versed on. If you are understanding and looking at the Medicaid system itself, Medicaid out in the community, which is independent living, versus Medicaid in a skilled care facility or nursing home is two different things. It operates two different ways. So many of the resources that I'm aware of operate very differently out in the community setting, which is independent living. Joe is kind of the guy to go to for that, and he also works up in his office with Ashley, who many of you know through Homestead. They work together on making sure they have access to all the resources. So they try to find out, one of the things that they have to look at is, do you financially qualify? Community resources everywhere are based on usually your finances. And then they'll help you get in contact with anybody that you need to get that assistance. If you're just taking extra because that's what you like and you don't want to come to a different area to buy it, or you don't want to make it in your own apartment or go to the store, we just can't keep giving out extras to individuals. The reason being is obviously we're forecasting for the amount of people that normally come, and then we're making for those people. Not everything can be pulled and reused. It doesn't A, reheat well, it doesn't store well, and B, if it's been sitting in like a buffet type area, you really don't want to reuse it. So a lot of the items that are being taken for granted are items we may not actually reuse, but we're not just leaving it out there as a free-for-all at the end, because we never know. Maybe that day that, I'll just say it's a cupcake. So maybe that day, I myself will not splurge on a regular basis, but I splurge sometimes, and maybe that day a cupcake sounded good. But Mike took 10 cupcakes, so obviously Mike wanted the cupcakes, but we need to leave cupcakes for everybody. Sounds minute, but obviously it can keep adding up. And this was a concern that primarily came from fellow residents, the amount of food being taken out. It was not a concern where I was walking through the dining room myself and I saw it. It came from fellow residents. So the Henry Ford procedure worked well, and we're going to go back towards that procedure since it worked well. And with food costs being where they are, it's going to help us make sure that we don't have to continue to raise any cost. That's the goal, to not raise any more cost. But food costs, I'm sure all of you are watching the news, are a little out of control. So we will have that out on paper very shortly, but right now it's just going to go back to, they're going to box it up for you. I did ask her to make sure that I guess there's some pre-boxed desserts sometimes, because I know I like to take my dessert home too. So I did ask her to make sure that they were aware that they could take pre-boxed desserts. Excuse me. It's dry. Okay, building services turn. Light bulbs. Apparently, it's been the same for a long time, but we've been being overly accommodating and not doing what we said we were going to do a long time ago, which means that we're going to go back to charging some things. Some of you have lights that are like the tube lights that are high up in the kitchen still. Those are a pain, we know. Those are not easy to change, we know. Building services will be replacing those and changing those for you. Some people are calling because they need a light bulb and a lamp, just a regular table lamp, and they also want us to change the light bulb. That is gonna be a charge. I don't know if everybody realizes how many light bulbs we could give away every day. All of those things start to add up. So we are going to have, there's light bulbs available in the market for appliances. And then if not, you can call building services and they will either assist you, but it could come at a charge. And they'll let you know that in advance. I made sure to tell them. If this is something we have not been doing, please, please, please be very clear that you will see the charge. So the charge will be on the end of the month. It'll say like maintenance, or it'll say, I don't know if the charges actually say individually what they are. Somebody's shaking their head, yes, they do. Appreciate that. That is all of, oh, I lied. Building services, Britt. Oh, we kind of touched base, but I just want to reiterate. Work orders are done based on level of, they first come, first serve, but then a priority. So since we've managed to hire more guys, and they are very efficient, so they didn't need a lot of training, we're getting very good time on our work orders. About 72 hours is what most of them are taking. However, if I was assigned to work orders and God forbid somebody's sink starts leaking, that's gonna take a priority. So that's gonna stop. However, like I said, we have more guys in building services, so we're a little bit less likely to need that work order to get delayed too long. Garbage. Garbage has become a hot topic. 2 bags per unit. Additional bags are picked up at a $5 per bag rate. Also, there's been some question, and I've seen it quite a bit myself, and I've had some residents also help out to inform that the garbage is put out at different times that it's not supposed to be out. Nobody wants to walk down a hallway and see garbage 7 days a week. They just don't want to. So there are times, and forgive me, I did not write them down. I know you know them. Somebody knows the times. I'm sorry?
Sunday night and Wednesday night.
Sunday night and Wednesday night, 8 p.m., right? Yes, thank you. So the question becomes, what are we going to do about people that are choosing to put their garbage out all hours, all day? I am going to direct both housekeeping and security and building services that if they see trash out for an extended period of time, I would like them to do one knock. We see your trash is out. It's not time for it to be out. Can you please take it in? If it happens consistently, which is a little hard because tracking this many apartments to know how many times we've knocked on your door, but it becomes regularly aware of who it is, we will be charging whatever the ancillary charge is that pertains to you setting your trash out for extended period of time. Why are we looking at that as a concern? Sometimes it just smells. It smells up the whole hallway. It depends on what you put in your trash. Obviously, we can take trash down, so if you don't want it in your apartment because it's smelling up your apartment, but it's not trash pickup day, it has to come down to the trash in CB1 or CB2. I know when I worked on the weekend, there was probably 5 trash bags that were just sitting out in the hallway in common areas. So I picked up all those trash bags and took them to the garbage. Recently, a resident told me that she saw a family visitor bringing trash in. So we can't always say that it's even a resident that just decided to stop halfway to the trash and put their trash down. If it's by a door and a visitor came in, the visitor could have brought a trash bag in. Why? I have no idea, but stranger things have happened. So one of the goals that we're doing is getting more trash cans on the interior by any doors or any areas like elevators that maybe don't have a door near it. So if you picture the door across from the craft room, there's two doors. The one is the craft on the outside that goes to the parking lot, and then one straight across that goes into the courtyard. There's going to be trash cans right there. There's a likeliness that because those trash cans are there, we're not going to put one by the chapel court elevator. But if you picture, I'm going to make up a spot because it's going to be wrong. If you picture an elevator area where we see a lot of people and there's no trash available because there's no double doors right there, then we might put it outside of the elevators. I directed building services to start buying the trash cans, start placing them, and then we'll know at the end of the day how many we really needed. If we identify we need more, we get more. If we identify we need less, we already have some of the trash cans, we'll put them out. There will be less exterior trash cans come spring and summer. 2 reasons. Those big stone trash cans are literally falling apart, and they're very, very expensive. Also, people are using them to put things in them that really should not be in them. A lot of times it's the caregivers, we know that, but we can't control all the caregivers, nor do we even know who all of them are. When those trash cans get overflowed, unfortunately what happens, the wind comes, it blows the trash everywhere, and it also invites more pests to be around. So the goal is throw away the trash before you go outside, or when you come inside, throw it away there. Obviously, the trash cans near the doors will not be for kitchen trash bags. It's for, I have trash in my hand, I have a cup, I have a bag because I went to eat somewhere and it was in my car. They're not meant to be used for large kitchen trash bags. Okay, snow. Snow is the last topic that Britt gave me. So we went to the same procedure that was done prior to in Henry Ford. The contract company does the outside circle. They only come at 2 inches or less. And then the interior is done, the parking lots in the interior area is done by building services. They do the parking lots with, I believe, 2 inches or more. Now, obviously, it's a little hard to do a parking lot full of cars. It's not going to be that great of a job all the time. The goal is to get as many of the cars to be available to get in and out, but I'm not the expert in snow plowing. I can just tell you that they had a little bit of trouble. He was learning how to plow and not plow you in was his goal. So his goal was to not plow the snow right up against the car to where if you have to back up or pull out and you don't have a car that's powerful enough to get over that hump, that would have been an issue. But he also didn't want to make sure he hit any cars. And if you ever walk out into the parking lot and look down the line, it's never straight. It's in and out, in and out. So that was his goal. For the sidewalks, they will still do the sidewalks. There were a couple sidewalks a couple times that we had to make sure that we explained a little more attention to detail. There will not be plowing in between or around individual cars. There never has been. If you want your car if you want your car shoveled out around the area or in between or dusted off, you have to call building services. That is a service, a paid service that's available. So we went back to the same way that Henry Ford was doing it. It worked for them. Again, if it was working, we're not trying to change it. One thing I do want to say on this subject is I never try to point fingers to the team or to anybody here for a blame situation on anything. So sometimes I just decide not to make statements. But I will tell you that for whatever reason, there was not a lot of information always wrote down. So we'll go with just the simple thing of what does the grounds person do. There was not a day-to-day list or a week-to-week list of what the grounds person is to complete. Apparently, for years, the grounds person just came in and looked at somebody every day, and that person said, "This is what I want you to do today." That's not a very effective way to work. So we were kind of watching things and making sure we're looking at things and we're writing processes, but obviously when you're new to this facility and it's so big, you may kind of forget an area or forget something. We try to walk around, we try to see everything before we write a process, but there may be an issue with us having to tweak it a little bit. So we do look at all the processes. We do try to look back to see what it was. But strangely enough, for some reason, there's a lot of things that just never got wrote down. So if there was a process and it was successful, we end up having to piece it together through people's memories, which are not always that great, no matter what, even if you worked here, because everybody kind of remembers it in their own way. So a lot of the building services processes, they were just never wrote down. And I don't know how many people have changed over hands of building services, but I believe it's been at least 3. So a lot of that information just kind of left with them. And then when you come in as the new person, you have to kind of just rewrite everything from the beginning. So it's been a little bit cumbersome for Britt and myself. I'm used to having things done right away, but when he's getting pulled to a lot of different areas, he only has so many hours in his day as well, but we have wrote down the grounds process. We have it more detailed in a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly kind of basis, and obviously we'll be looking at that to make sure that it flows well. I'm saying that because there was a lot of questions about trash. So I'll use the example that when I got here, they told me they only do trash outside 3 days a week. I thought that was strange. Trash piles up fast, and again, we don't want it to blow away. So now we have trash being looked at 5 days a week, which is when the grounds people are here. If there is a trash issue on the weekends when we don't have a grounds person here, it is up to maintenance to help pull the trash, or even the weekend manager. Any of us can pull trash. So if you see there's a trash concern or any concern on the weekends, you call the front desk. The front desk has the little walkie-talkies, and they have phone numbers. They can get a hold of everybody. So your goal is to, if you have any concerns on off hours, is to call the front desk. In saying that, the front desk does not have the answer to every process that could touch this place. There's just no way for them to have all of that. They have key points on what they can tell people, and they also have contact people. So all of us know that at any given day at home, we could get a phone call to ask how something could happen, or a text or an email, and we're all pretty diligent about monitoring those things. Obviously, people can get a hold of us if it's more of an emergency. There's a lot of information that goes around on nights and weekends, but I know there is some thought that the front desk staff should understand every department's every process. It's not going to happen. There's a lot of processes in a lot of departments. And legitimately, that is a position that will probably turn over more than others. When you don't have to have a specific qualification and skill set, it's a lower paying position, and the position turns over more often. It's how it works. So we're not going to be able to say that we can train every front desk person when they walk in the door on every process in this giant place. It's just unrealistic. So they will have the main overall idea when you report the concern. Why am I saying that? A lot of people report a concern and they want to know the detailed answer to the process. Just report the concern. We will take care of the process. I understand as a consumer myself, it can be frustrating and you want to know the answers. We just can't give the answers to everything that happens every day to every individual that calls. It's just not possible. So please remember, you're not going to be the only one that calls. You're not going to be the only person that has a concern. We're trying to be able to be available for as many people as possible. Whew, I feel like I've just been talking nonstop. That is all the questions, for the most part, that the staff have given. Other detailed questions that came through will be covered more in the resident questions, because they had a little bit more to offer in the detail to their questions. I will say, going back, I think this might be a good time. The goal of management here is to run the campus as a whole, not individual apartments and not individual people's lives. There's a lot of people moving in that value privacy, and they don't want us to be a part of everything that they do and every thought that they have and everything that they touch. In saying that, we have to realize this is an independent living apartment complex. We are exempt as being a home for the aged. We are exempt because we do not provide care. We provide services that provide care. There's a difference there. The reason that I say that is because it's kind of a touchy area. I have no authority on your individual apartments almost. I can't just, if you picture my old life skilled care, I hear you doing something in your room. I have the right to knock on the door and request to enter and go in, because you're in a highly regulated area. If you think about apartments here, it's just like the homes that you lived in. Somebody could think you're in there doing something. They should think you shouldn't do it. They should think you should do it differently. They didn't have the right to knock on your door and welcome themselves in and tell you how to do it. That's the part that I'm finding a lot of people are not understanding. I cannot just open your door and tell you how you should be living and what you should be doing in your apartment. So I say that because little things happen that I don't have the right to do. So for example, smoking drives me insane. I can't tell you how many times I walk up and down a hallway trying to sniff out smoke, which is not that easy all the time to find the one place. You get it narrowed down to a little area. Then you have to look at who's living in that area. Who could it be? Well, that's kind of me guessing. Reality is, I'm guessing, so I'm assigning a blame based on a guess. You have to be very careful of doing something like that. I don't think that any of you would want me to do that to any of you about anything. So when we go to that area, we may just knock on the doors to say, hey, we can smell some smoke in this area. This is a non-smoking area, campus. You cannot be smoking on the property. Let's be honest, nobody that's smoking is answering their door. So I may knock on 5 doors and be lucky if one door gets answered. Now, I could say, well, that means it's one of these 4 doors, or you could be at breakfast, or you could be out of town, or you could be just out walking the dog. I don't know all the time. Smoke carries. The way that we've gotten around that concept on some situations and evicted some smokers, somebody had a fall, and we went into their apartment, and lo and behold, A, there was cigarette butts, and B, there were some burn areas. Obviously then, we don't have to guess if you're smoking. That is when we give you the warning and we give you a letter, and we do follow through. There has been people evicted for that. I cannot evict someone for smoking based on me assuming and narrowing it down, but never really truly knowing. It's one of these two apartments. So do I evict both of them? Because I cannot, state law, this is your apartment, you pay rent. I cannot just make a decision to knock on the door and let myself in because this is a non-smoking campus. We can only come in when you read your lease based on an emergency situation that can affect something. So a flood or a potential issue that could affect the entire campus. Some may disagree, but somebody smoking is not an emergency situation that affects the entire campus. I cannot sell that if somebody takes me to court. I have to think about it that way. If somebody says they're violating their own contract and their own lease, they barged into my apartment, I have to be able to defend what we did and the decisions that we've made. And we are going to have to move forward with it just like that. Is it frustrating? It's frustrating for all of us. We do continue to warn people, but again, I have to have just cause to go into your apartment. There was some question on what that means. Is the use of legal medical marijuana allowed on property? Smoking of any kind of any substance is not supposed to be on property. It's supposed to be outside of the black fence, mostly over at Birthplace Park, which we did order two smoking cans for that area. I never noticed that there was not smoking materials over there. I actually was told there was, so I don't know where they went, but we ordered two that we're gonna put over there. Is that a pain for somebody to go that far? Yes, it is. I get it. It's frustrating. But that's where the smoking area is because it's a smoke-free campus. So we will continue to do our due diligence on trying to sniff out who's smoking, and security is well aware, as are caregivers usually aware, but it could be sometimes the caregiver that's in there smoking with the resident. It could be a visitor that's in there smoking. So we don't always know who it is. You are responsible for people that are in your apartment. So if you have a visitor and they're doing something, it is your responsibility. If you have a caregiver and they're doing something, it is your responsibility. When people tell us who they think is smoking, we do try to sniff around that area a little bit more. I can't spend, neither can Mike Lewinsky or Mike Sala, spend hours going to look for smoking. We just don't have that amount of time. So we do try to make identifications of it in attempt in ways. We do talk to people about it. We do give them the letters, but actual evictions over smoking is not that easy. Okay. I'm going to move over to the resident-based questions. Some of you sent 10 or 12 questions. I'm not going to answer them in a row like that. I'm just going to kind of group them together so that it flows a little bit easier. So one of the first questions was basically about the chain of command. How does this entire campus work? What does the new chain of command look like, and how does it work compared to Sage? So the owners, or Sage management out in the headquarters, they have appointed Lexi, the regional director of operations. Her region is these 3 buildings. So she is the corporate representative for Sage management. That is who you will hear from if you want to talk to corporate. If there is some question on Lexi coming to be a part of resident council or give some conversations or topics, we can definitely make that happen. There's nobody from Sage corporate off site that is going to plan a trip to come here. They've elected Lexi to be their representative. So it's Lexi is in charge of independent living, assisted living, and IL administrators. So she's on the top, and the three of us report to her. So I report to her based on independent living, Jen reports to her based on assisted living, and Deja reports to her based on skilled care. Do we all get together and hash out problems? Not really, because what you can do in skilled care and independent living, her problem and my problem couldn't be farther apart, which is why I left skilled care. A lot of problems. Just a lot of staff and a lot of issues. So getting together to work together on things is very minimal and far and few between. What you need as an independent resident and what I am doing for you as an independent resident is mostly nothing like the skilled care. So we're not going to work together on a lot of projects. We are trying to maintain the concept of community. So this year, for the longest day, each building will be responsible for putting on their own portion in their own facility for the longest day. So I don't know if that's ever happened in the past, but Deja will be responsible in the skilled care for doing stuff for the longest day. Jen will be responsible in the assisted living. If people have family members and friends and they want to bring them over, or if you want to go over and see what they're doing, that's fine. But other than saying, yes, this is what we're doing, we're not necessarily working together in it. So a goal is not to bring all the skilled care and assisted living residents over to the independent living, just rather to make sure that it's recognized by all of the campus. Things like the holidays, I guess they used to be maybe sometimes a little bit put together. We'll take Halloween. They start the walk over at Connie's campus in assisted living, and then they walk through over the hallways into windows. Simple things like that, we're gonna continue, but what one of us does is not necessarily affected by the other one. I'm not sure if that answers the question and the concern that was brought up, because it was kind of just vague about what it is. I think I apparently said something on a CHIPCAST that maybe spun that thought process, which I will be finding more out. People have asked about posting the chain of command or who the department heads are and what their preferred method of communication is. I'll be looking at a possible way to do this. What I'll say right now is that the goal for the department heads is to run the departments and to be available for higher decision-making things. So if you have a work order, you should not be calling Britt personally. Nice guy, yes, I get it. You should be calling and putting it in with Shannon. Some people have decided they want to talk to only certain people. We can't do it that way. We have job duties in different positions for a reason. If Britt is on the phone recording work orders, he's probably not dealing with the contractors, and we need him to be dealing with the contractors. We need him to be out there planning the different things that we need to do to the entire campus. So we will be looking at a chain of command. I think the big concern is, instead of contacting the department, the thought process is we'll just go right to the top. That's happening a lot these days. This happened in my world before I got here. People will call and say, why isn't this happening? I am not, something is canceled in activities. Christian standing there made me think of this. The day Vanessa Carr had to cancel. This is not hitting my radar. It's not something that should be on the executive director or administrator. Those are interchangeable. Just wanted to throw that out there. It shouldn't be on my schedule. This is something that goes through resident life. It is up to resident life to handle. If Vanessa Carr had to cancel, She's not calling me. It's not coming up to me to tell me that she canceled. If I had a resident life director that couldn't handle that Vanessa Carr canceled and knew what to do, that's my problem. Now that comes up to me. I should be able to depend on each department to do things. So I guess the concern is, why does people need individual department heads, names, phone numbers, contacts, and emails? If you need to have a concern resolved, you should be going to the department, the manager of the department, like the office manager. I think everybody knows Shannon. She's worked here for 27 years, maybe 26, but I think 27 years. My goal with the rollout of information is to kind of give that information out. However, it's in the welcome packet. So I don't know if some people just have been living here for a while and they forgot that that information was in the welcome packet. But when I look at what we need to do, because everybody will say you need to communicate more, I always go back to the basics. Where did we start this information? When I go back to the basics and I say, hey, we need to give this information out, I can't tell you how many times employees will say, it's right here. We give this to everybody. What that tells me is we're giving out a lot of paper and not a lot of people are reading it. So this is the concern when everybody keeps saying we need to have another piece of paper. We're not reading the original pieces of paper. So I'm not sure how another piece of paper is going to change that. Not everybody is computer and technologically savvy. I get that. This is kind of the happy medium to there will never be perfect communication in a place that is this large with this many people that have this many different preferences. Some people, some of the residents here are way more tech savvy than I could ever be. And some don't even want an email, they don't want to talk about a computer, I get it. When we have things happen, this is where we try to communicate at multiple places for that reason. I might offend some people when I say this. This is not my goal. This is called transparency. When we report things at different areas, if we make a huge mistake, let's just say one area says trash is Tuesday and Friday, one says Sunday and Wednesday. Yes, we need to know that. If we make a mistake that one area says Sunday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. and one area says Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m., the world is not coming to an end. There's people that are going out of their way to send communications and to make appointments to discuss these discrepancies. And it's going to a level where it's taking up a lot of people's time over a minute discrepancy. So our goal is to limit where we have repetitive information. Everybody's been taught for a long time. The more you have to write something down, the more likeliness it can cause an issue in transcription. This was why they went to electronic medical records. They thought that all these prescription changes were not going to be as big of an issue because if you can electronically move stuff around, it'll be perfect. Well, it's still not perfect, but it's better than it was. So our goal is to make as few places as possible where a transcription error could occur. There's not 24/7 people here that are working on just one thing. So there is room for error. There is room. The day Vanessa Carr canceled is perfect. I was only a part of that information because Mike's office is right there by mine, and she called Mike very last minute to say, I think I need to cancel. Well, I think it was like 4:15, 4:30. So the people that we would normally give that information to, we would normally give it to T. T had to leave early that day. And so the question was, what do we do? I don't know if Christian was here that day. He was not. The question is, what do we do? Okay, Mike went on and he put it in one area, said it was canceled. He did not put it in the second area that day. He put it on the calendar. The calendar is where you should be looking at stuff. The question and concern became, why wasn't there an announcement to go with the calendar? I get the thought process, but again, when she calls at 4:15 or 4:30 to cancel, but isn't sure for sure if she wants to cancel, because maybe she's going to cancel, maybe she's going to come, and Mike already has 15 other things he's trying to get done before he leaves, he threw it on the calendar to cancel. He did not stop to make a whole flyer to say that she was canceling. This created a lot of, probably an hour out of my day discussion. Kind of makes me say, let's stop putting it everywhere. I guess the thought process is that if we have to place it in 5 areas, and we place it in those 5 areas, when something changes, now we got to go to all 5 of those areas to change it. That seems like an easy task, but when you have 100 tasks on your plate, it's not always that easy. And there's room for error, like we just said, when you have to do it into 5 places. So we're looking at minimizing where we announce things, and that is going to be part of the reboot, the life enrichment rollout, resident life, sorry. I always say it that way. That information is going to be coming out soon. That information was presented to management on the style and the way they wanted to present it. Then they had a small study group of residents to see how it was received, if it made sense, if it was too much information all at one time, and then how we can condense the information. So that information will be a part of that. Somebody asked a question about 55 plus and independent living. This question tends to come from independent living and not 55 plus people. So the main difference is 55 plus is no meal credits, no resident or staff run activity involvement unless it's like a holiday or something like that. We're not gonna be like, no Christmas for you, you're in 55 plus. We're not gonna do that. But the idea is there is a difference. There's some people that just wanna live in a senior-focused area, but not for the same reasons as everybody else. They just don't wanna live next to the 24-year-old with the 2 kids or the 21-year-old that's still hanging out and blaring their music until 4 in the morning. They want to know that they're living in an area that is geared and guided towards seniors, and that maybe one day, when they feel like it's time for them, they will join the independent living part of the program. So the 55 plus is not geared towards people that are really, it's not set up to be rolled out towards people that are really retired as much so as it's just rolled out towards people that are still working. They're still out and about on a regular basis, so they don't really worry about the meal credits and they don't participate in the activities. There has been some question from independent living people. I don't do activities, but I eat the meals. Can I get rid of the activities cost? There's only 2 plans, 55 plus, independent living. The 55 plus, once again, is no meal credits and no staff and resident run activity participation. In saying that, I think Link Therapy does a pool, like aerobics type thing. Nobody is going to the pool to see who is 55 plus and asking them to get out of the pool during that time. It's just not happening like that. It's a goal that this is who we're paying. If we had everybody all on one plan, we would have a different budget for the activities for independent living versus what the 55 plus is doing. So the goal is just to offer those two different programs. We are not going to individualize things right now by taking away meal plans and leaving activities or vice versa. That question has been posed to corporate if this is something they want to look at, more of an a la carte package. At this point in time, my understanding is they are not looking at an a la carte package. So it is just the two still. Okay. I spoke a little bit about home health and park. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because there's been some questions. How are they different than homestead? Homestead is private duty, so they don't have any requirements for staff under private duty. Like you don't have to be a nurse and you don't have to be a CNA. So a CNA is different than a caregiver. A CNA you went and got a certification for. You did your classes, you passed your test, and you maintain your certification. You also have to do continuing education. A caregiver is not the same. A CNA can work in private duty. Private duty cannot work as a CNA. Home health is usually what you would get if you leave the hospital and you need therapy. They may say, we're going to write you a home health script. So, why did we partner with Park? They are not owned by Sage. Jonathan is the owner. He lives in West Bloomfield. He is, by trade, I believe, a therapist, and he decided to start a home health agency. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to work for anybody anymore. He wanted to have his own business. Why did we pick Park to partner with? Probably 10 or so home care companies, home health companies have come into us to ask us, can you partner with us? And what does that mean, really? On this side, it does not mean as much as on the skilled side. This is where I'm gonna try not to bore some people and not go too in depth. About 10 years ago, the healthcare system said we need to make a circle to keep everybody where they need to be. And they made a lot of rules and regulations about these circles. So one of the things is the hospital. Then you leave the hospital, where did you go? Did you go to a skilled care facility? When you went to the skilled care facility and you left there because you successfully did your therapy, where did you go? You went to your independent living or your own house. And then from there, you have your doctors that you go see. So there's a circle: hospital, skilled care or rehab, home health, your outside doctor. The goal was for as many people to partner together as possible so that we can talk about a lot of topics together. We can identify and see things that maybe are trends, and to make the gaps a little smaller for everybody, because it was identified that in those gaps is when people fall through the crack and they end up in the hospital again within like 30 days. Obviously that costs the system, and nobody wants to be in the hospital that much anyways. So when we're partnering with somebody, we're looking at what services can you give us. A lot of these home health companies are huge, and who comes to sell to me? The salesperson, not the person actually running the home health, not the person making the schedule. So I will not use names of a company, but one time a hospice company came to me. We have all this to offer you. We're doing this. We're the greatest hospice company ever. 3 days later, we gave them 3 possible admits. They said, we don't have staff for that. You were just in my office 3 days ago telling me we should use you. There's disconnect in every company. There was disconnect with a lot of the home health. This is a big campus. So if I'm here and I live in my apartment and I use Mike's Home Health, and that's set up by the hospital, There's a rule that they're supposed to come within 48 hours. We know, in general, they're never going to come on Saturday and Sunday as your first bet. So if you discharge from the hospital on Thursday, there's a high likeliness you're not going to see anybody till Monday or Tuesday. Well, many of you know that the difference between Thursday and Tuesday can mean a lot to somebody that needs assistance, that's waiting for that person to show up. When that person shows up, do they understand the campus? If this is the first time that Mike sent somebody here, do they even know how to get around? Do they listen when we tell them how to get around? No. So inevitably, with all of our lovely doors, you can tell people, happened to me in the summer, told the DoorDash guy, you have to go to Great Lakes. They're not gonna, you can't get in this door. He walked right back to the door. I said, nope, the door is not gonna magically open. Now, I ended up opening the door for him, yes. Here's my concern. He's not listening, so if I open that door for him, is the next time he's just gonna go to that door again? I'm teaching him a bad habit. The home health is the same way. There's been so many people that have been ordered home health, which is part of your successful transition, part of what you pay your insurance to help you have, to get you to stay in your apartment for as long as possible. The home health aide or nurse came here, they couldn't find you. They left. You got no home health. That's what was happening over and over and over. So when we say we partner with somebody, we're partnering with One Home Health. We picked a home health that works out of Corwell, because that's where most people end up here in an emergency situation. They are our preferred provider. We cannot tell anybody who they have to use. You have rights in this world everywhere you go. We will tell Corwell that's our preferred provider. Will the Corwell staff cement that in their head with the 100 home health agencies that are out there that also like to go into the hospital every day and bring their favorite cupcakes and pens to everybody to try to get people? I can't say that they will. So we ask you to make sure that you're aware of who we partner with, so that if you go to the hospital and you need home health, you can say, hey, they partner with Park. That way they can send that referral over to Park. Do you have to use Park? Again, no, you don't. You can use anybody that you want. If you used residential home health and you love them, use residential, it's okay. The reason that we partnered is because I come in on Wednesday and I find out that Tuesday, our recent resident who got a home health consult request from Park still has not met with anybody. I am picking up my phone and calling Jonathan. Jonathan, your staff are here. Why are they not seeing somebody? So the whole goal is just to make sure that somebody is more available, to ensure that they understand the campus. That Malika is the nurse's name. She does all of the intakes, is what they call them, for home health. So Malika knows she went to whatever apartment. I like to make up an apartment because I don't want anybody to think I'm talking about them. CC 702. There's no 7th floor. I'm good there. Malika goes to CC 702, knocks on the door. Well, nobody answers. Malika might not know that CC 702 leaves their door open and just anticipates that somebody's gonna come in, because people do that. So she leaves because nobody answered. But Malika's not gonna leave the property and go back and tell her boss, I don't know, nobody answered the phone, because we're partnered with them. So Malika is gonna go down to Joe and she's gonna see if she can find Joe. Joe's gonna say, let me go with you. Or she goes to security, or she comes to me. She has a lot of opportunity. She can say, this isn't working. I didn't get a hold of them. We can then get a hold of you with her. So that's the goal. If we know that you just got home from the hospital yesterday and Malika comes to see you and nobody's answering the door and Mike Lewinsky comes up there, we may be concerned enough to say, hey, this person went out to the hospital. We know a little more about them than some of you, so maybe we say this could be an emergency situation. Maybe their latch check isn't done. So we might enter the apartment just to make sure that they're okay. I'm not saying that we're gonna enter everybody's apartments that chooses Park. Please do not hear that. Again, the goal is just to have more accountability to a company to say, hey, this is how many people we've given to you, and this is how many people you got to in 48 hours and 72 hours, whatever the time frame may be. Because home health is important, and often they just don't show up. They don't put the effort in. So that was the goal behind them. Home health is different than Link. Link does not come to apartments, home health does. This is where I am not the expert in all of this, and I will invite Jonathan on CHIPCAST to explain it a little bit more. There are ways for you to get home health and then graduate into Link. So say, for instance, you leave the hospital and you're weak enough that you maybe just can get from your bed to your bathroom, and right now you're getting a little bit of private duty assistance. That is a prime opportunity for home health. Home health is going to come into your apartment. They're going to work with you on strengthening you. Now, home health is a shorter period of time. So home health says they're good, they met their goals, they can walk to their bathroom by themselves, they can get to the kitchen by themselves, they're gonna discharge you. That doesn't mean that you've necessarily reached back to your max potential. Home health can then make a recommendation to the doctor for you to go to Link. Now that means you're gonna go in and you're gonna do a little more extensive rehab because you're in the rehab room. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to do, make that ability and that cycle a little bit bigger for you, make it a little more user-friendly. So we have asked Link and Park to work well together. One's not stealing from the other, and because, just like every place else, and just like every other opportunity, it is hard to find therapists. It used to be the hot commodity. When I went to school to be a dietitian, I thought, why didn't I go to school to be a therapist? They're always wanted. Well, therapy world is not as user-friendly these days as it used to be. There's a lot of pressure on therapists, on productivity. A lot of people stopped going into therapy because it was something that people were like, just don't do it. It's a pain, you won't like it. It's not what you think it is. So they stopped going into it. So Jonathan and Link did partner up together to talk about being able to use each. If I work for Link and I'm only working part-time, I want some full-time hours, I maybe go over and work with Jonathan. Or maybe I'm a workaholic and I want to do more than my 80 hours, I can go work with Jonathan. The way that would help is you have a specific therapist that you love to work with because they did great things for you. So you're like, I don't really want home health because I want to go to Link. If you do that, you may skip over the amount of time that you can be getting home health and Link, which is going to be longer. But if we can provide the same staff, maybe we can figure out a way to work that out with their schedule. So that was kind of the goal behind that part. There's no big conspiracy about Park. I mean, it's just home health. And Jonathan happened to be the person that came in. He didn't send the sales rep that made the same promises to the last 20 facilities that they went into, but didn't even know how the staff was and didn't know what the services was. He was a newer company that's looking to grow and looking to be given an opportunity. So usually some of the newer, smaller companies do a little bit of a better job because they're trying to grow their business. So since he was at Corwell, it made sense to use him here. So far, he is Johnny on the spot, calls me about people that don't even live here. I'm like, that's the assisted living, you're gonna have to call Jen. So he is very dedicated in getting what anybody here would need for home health. And I will have him come on to CHIPCAST. Or he could possibly even talk at a resident council. Okay. Mike, I'm gonna have you come up here and talk about this so I can get a talking break. There are some questions about CCTV, and why we use satellite, and some of the channels that may not be great, and the sports.
Sure. So we use Centrix. Centrix is a satellite provider and that's on our roof. During bad weather, freezing weather, some channels do not work. We've communicated with Centrix to let them know of this. They're definitely working with us on some solutions of what they can do, but this is kind of what it is. They do offer the sports package that will get you the Detroit Pistons, the Detroit Tigers, and the Detroit Red Wings. But that is something that the company, Allegra Village, has to get for everybody. It can't be individual residents pay for that package. It's a package that we would have to pay, and then by doing that, we would have to take out several channels that are already established, with the package that we currently have. So we're not going to be doing that at this time. There is an app that can be downloaded on your smart TV. If you don't have a smart TV, it's a Roku would work, or Amazon Fire Stick as well. It'd be $20 a month for you to download that app, or $180 for the year. But that gives you the Tigers, the Red Wings, Tigers, Red Wings, Tigers, and the Detroit Pistons. Correct, Detroit Pistons.
The direction sports is going.
Oh, and the direction that the sports is going, as I'm sure, is that they're getting away from being broadcast on regular channels, because your Amazons, your Apple TV, Netflix, they're all trying to compete to get those sporting packages in their plans, so that the consumer, us, has a way to kind of pay for it. So that's the direction it's going. Used to, back in the day, you'll be able to watch the Pistons on, your local, channels. That's getting away, and this is where it's going, which is why it's kind of difficult and frustrating for us now. We're going to have to pay for those services. You can do it $20 a month. So if you want to do just the Tigers, and then when the Tigers ends, you don't want to watch it anymore, then you can just stop paying, and that service will stop. And then you can kind of renew when the baseball season comes back. So that's all I have for that.
There's been some question on why did we pick satellite. It's the same thing that goes back to the alarm company. Having Comcast come in here and wire this entire complex, I can't even begin to think about the cost that is. Not to mention, I'm not sure if anybody's really familiar with what the current monthly cost is after your integration period is over, is about $175 a month. So cable is outrageous these days. And I know we call it cable, and it's not cable anymore. I'm not sure what they want to call themselves these days. That is why they went with satellite. It was the fastest fix with the more bang for your buck to go with a satellite than to ask a company to come in to rewire an entire complex. I don't even know, honestly, if that could have been done and how easy it could have been done. And I say that because I had a building that was nowhere near this size, and they came in to wire my building for mere internet purposes. About 6 months in, it still was not completed, because they have the same problems as everybody else. People quit. People no call, no show. Then your project gets kind of moved to the end because they don't have the staff. It's just not an area that a lot of people are going into work-wise. So when you are looking at taking on something that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we couldn't have any idea how long that project was going to take. So WOW does not do cable anymore. anywhere. They did send a letter that said, we're giving you 1 year to figure it out. This is when they decided they would end up going with Centrix. The reason that we left in September, so we could have waited till December. That would have been a horrid disaster if you think about it. December, all these people running in and out, trying to get this done, holidays, everything happening, it just was not gonna be a good idea to do December. So the reason that WOW has told some people that we left is because we pulled out a couple months earlier than they had given us. They gave us a 1-year deadline. It just wasn't a good idea to do a change like that in December. It would not have gone over well. So whether anybody believes it or not, you wouldn't have had cable after December from WOW. It would have just shut off. And again, the plan was, how do we get this done the fastest? The fastest was satellite, because nobody has to rewire the entire campus. And I'm talking all the way over to the skilled care, so the entire campus. That is why they went with that. Scroll. A scroll has kind of flipped around sometimes. Scroll is supposed to be just music and announcements, so you should not be seeing any programming on Scroll now. I lost my number 5. Give me a second here. Lobby improvements. This kind of goes back to, apparently there was some gentleman named Avi that worked with Sage at some point in time, and Avi made a statement about spending millions of dollars. I don't know where Avi was given the thumbs up for the amount that he was given, or if it was ever given accurately. To this day, I don't know. What I can tell you is that money was not just for independent living. It was for the entire campus. So things that came out of that money were the golf simulator. Some people are not happy about that. New flooring, yes. So if you travel over to the assisted living, it started over there. Not 100% sure why they picked over there, but they picked over there first. So they're remodeling right now assisted living. They did the first flooring. Now I believe they're up in memory care. They are working their way over here. The fact that we weren't picked first can be frustrating, but here's the reality. We have to get some other things under control before we worry about changing the way it looks. And that was the pipes that are springing leaks in the hallway. I don't know how long these have been leaking for. I had one family member tell me 10 years. I've not worked here for 10 years. Nobody wrote up an essay to leave me to tell me what they did or didn't do and why they did or didn't do it. I got here, I noticed there was buckets. We gotta get rid of this. Somebody's gotta fix this. They were attempting to contact a lot of different vendors to fix this. And for some reason, not all of them wanna come in and give you an estimate all the time. When I finally talked to many of the vendors myself, because I tend to not believe people when they tell me things can't be done, so I just go behind you and call everybody that you called to see if you were telling me the truth. Maybe not the best use of my time, but it's gotten things accomplished. When I called these small vendors, if you are a plumbing company and you have 10 guys on your crew, you can't send all 10 guys to this building to do these hallway pipes. You'll never do another job. Many of the companies just didn't feel like they had the ability to get it done. So we did reach out to a company that I used that is not a common use company in what would be considered household. It's more commercial, which with the size of this, you might as well say it's commercial. So we reached out to a commercial company. That is who is here now. We were told to start in one building, get that one building completed, then move on to the next building. So we did start in Chapel Court. Chapel Court Plumbing, per Goyette, now has the thumbs up. I'm not gonna say this is the end-all be-all, and there's not gonna be another leak anywhere ever, because it's plumbing. It will fail. It will fail in your own home, it will fail here. But for whatever the issue was in the hallway, and I didn't ask him to get into details. I do a lot of times like to act like I'm a plumber or other things on the side, but I only YouTube things. I've never actually been taught anything, and I was daddy's girl, so I got to hold all the wrenches and listen to all of the things that he was doing. But I did not ask them to give me details into these pipes. I can tell you that it was a big job, and there's a lot of concern. It's just the overall age of the pipes and how things do fail at a certain period of time. I don't remember who we are picking as the next building. I think it is KC. I was like, I didn't want to say that, and then it wasn't. And somebody's going to email me and tell me I said KC. But I believe it was KC. After we get those things fixed, then hopefully that timing coordinates with the SNF and the assisted living being done with their remodels, and they can move over here. The goal is to get rid of all of the carpet in at least our first floor. Obviously, when you fix the pipes, you can fix the ceiling, you can fix the wallpaper, you can fix the floor. So the goal is to get all of that fixed. I have been doing some rounds and asking building services where there's peeling wallpaper, get yourself some glue, put it back on. You know, there's simple little things. Why that wasn't happening, I don't know why they weren't doing that for years. It makes sense to me to just keep trying to, I get you're not gonna be able to redo everything from start to finish, but try to maintain the way things were. The only thing I can tell you is not everybody wanders around with attention to detail. And just like everything else in building services, they may have a day that they plan to do something. We're all coming in, we're all gonna walk the hallways, and we're all gonna look for peeling wallpaper, and we're gonna glue it back on and put it all together. And then God forbid, I don't even want to say what could happen, because it would be a knock on wood situation. And all those hands on deck that were going to do the wallpaper get diverted because there was a catastrophe or an emergency on something. And they don't always circle back as timely as I would like them to do. But we're working on it. So that is a goal. I don't have a date or a planned date even. Nobody's given me a date on when the remodels will start. Obviously, it would start, in my opinion and thought, in the buildings that it's gonna be most effective in. So if we've done the pipes and we know the pipes are done in Chapel Court, it would probably start in Chapel Court. From there, it would just depend. Some of the remodeling might look like, where's the most traffic? Where is it gonna be the easiest to get it done? It just depends. Every company that you work with kind of looks at remodeling a little different on how they want to get it accomplished. I hope, because at every place I've ever worked, I've been told a remodel is coming. So I'm excited to actually be where there's a remodel. So I'm hoping it comes around soon. The lobby improvements, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, some of the couches and chairs that had stains on them, the attachment to clean the upholstery was just missing, so we got that put into place, so we're trying to get that cleaned up. We're not trying to go out of our way to buy a lot of furniture until we know a color scheme that they're going with, because buying furniture for it to not match anything and to have to rebuy furniture is not a great idea. So we are trying to be very mindful. I understand, though, it is frustrating when you see a stain on a couch. So there are couches that I'm asking people, if there's a little couch maybe on a level in in a different common area by, let's just say, an elevator, and that one looks great. I may be stealing it soon and removing one that looks horrible. Do we need couches by every elevator? I knew that was going to be your answer. I would love to say I'm going to have them all for you. Can't say for sure that's going to happen. I do get to purchase things within the budget period. Obviously, there is a budget for everything. So we do have to be mindful of how we're spending that money and where we're spending it. But again, the goal is to spend it where it's going to affect the most people first and then going forward. While we're talking about some building services stuff, I'll knock out a couple of things. Fence repairs. I was initially told that the south fence would be replaced in spring of 2025. I got the estimate the other day for $126,000. I decided with building services in Lexi, let's see if we can repair the fence first before I spend $126,000 on a fence when you need couches, when you need other things that are important, because there is not just nobody is just throwing money down at me from anywhere. I would love for that to happen. So the fence is going to be looked at as repairs because it's $126,000. They're going to see how they can just keep it for one more year. So they're going to make sure it's secured. They're going to look at replacing the lattice tops that are missing, and try to make it as safe and attractive as possible, so that we can put that till next year. Again, we have to make choices, and a fence on the exterior is not necessarily as important as some of the interior things that need to be done. So we have to figure out which one we put a priority on. Parking lot lines. So remember I talked about the grounds process? The parking lot lines are due to be repainted in the spring, summer. I'm not sure if it's going to be the beginning of spring or the end of spring, but they are going to be repainting those. Speaking of parking lots, the amount of handicap spots, that's been the same since this property has been built. Handicap spots are based on the amount of people or amount of apartments that are available per building. This is a code regulation. It's not somebody just guessing. There's a certain code. This many people gets this many spots. That's what they did. Everybody wants a handicap spot. Everybody wants a first floor. There's only so many spots. Once we make everything handicap, then nothing's handicap, basically. So we're not adding or taking away handicap spots. And the handicap spots are all short-term. If there's signage missing, which we've replaced to let everybody know that, if you see a car in the short-term handicap spot for long-term, I have directed building services to make sure they contact them and let them know your car needs to be moved. This is short-term parking only, and that they will then move forward with fines as needed. Mike has given me the 10 minutes, so let me see real quickly. I think I've covered almost everything. Medical information. Some have asked about the doctors and how do they get a hold of the doctors. So since, I'm not sure when, the craft room, not sure why, has been the place that there's a list of the doctors. It lists the days that they're available. It lists how to contact them. It's still over there. I checked on it the other day. Also outside of the medical center is a list of the doctors. And I did ask Kim to make sure that they put that on scroll. My goal is to get more doctor involvement. It's kind of hard. We heard medical we want the medical center, we want the medical center, we want the medical center. So we put somebody in the medical center. I think those of you that go to the medical center are happy with the medical center doctor. I've never heard anything negative about him, but there's still many people not going to the medical center. But there's many people just not going to a doctor at all. So I am trying to push that a little bit more, only because your health should be important to you. If you are not seeing the doctor, there's a likeliness when something happens, it's going to be worse than if they try to help prevent it. So my goal is for your own health to get more concept of people seeing the doctor. I don't know why people are choosing to not see a doctor at all. There's many. When people go to the hospital and they go to get a home health order and they say, well, I have a physician. If you don't see your physician annually, they no longer consider you a patient. They take you out of their database. They will not write orders for you when we call. They say, I've never seen this person in 5 years. I haven't seen this person in 3 years. So I did speak to some of the doctors, and I do want you to be aware that you can see Dr. Asbahi in the medical center, but not make him your primary care physician all the time. Every insurance is set up a little differently. The idea that this is the doctor you saw for 20 years, that doctor is someplace else, and you still want to keep them the primary, that's fine. But you can still go see Dr. Asbahi. As long as you're not seeing the same kind of doctor on the same day, your insurance is 99% of the time okay with that. There used to be speakers that came in, some doctors from Corewell or Henry Ford, whatever it was called at that point in time. I guess they were coming in. I'm not sure how often. But I love that. I love that topic and that concept of having them come back in. So I'm going to reach out to Jo now. I don't know if she's who can help me. She's the senior operations specialist. I don't know why that fell off and what we have to do to get it going again. She's pretty high up in Corewell, and she owes me a couple of favors. So I'm going to try to call those in to see if we can figure anything out. And we will obviously let you know about it. Birthplace Park. People have asked about Birthplace Park. Yes, that cement over there is horrible. We're looking at getting it re-leveled, and I actually have a meeting tomorrow with the gentlemen that run the Henry Ford Foundation. They're supposed to be a part of maintaining Birthplace Park. So I happen to have that meeting with them already tomorrow. When I get any information from them on a plan and how we can work together, we will be letting you know. Just want to double check all my notes here on all the papers that you gave me. I think I covered the majority of the topics that were given where there was more than one person that had that question, or we hear it all the time. So what is our next step? What is our next goal? I'm going to go through all this again tomorrow at 2:30. The reason we're not taking questions and answers is because that was the point of this, to have that question. And often, the questions start to go back down the rabbit hole of things that are more individuals. We also don't want to have happen take questions and answers on Monday, and then on Tuesday, somebody else came up with a question that on Monday you didn't hear. So then now everybody's upset that they didn't hear that on Monday, but there was no question on Monday that answers that. What we are going to do is condense all of these questions and answers and look at how we can get that information out to people or available and what that's going to look like. We're not 100% sure so far because, again, a lot of it was repetitive questions, and a lot of it will be covered by something like posting the new guideline for carryouts. So if I'm going to post the guideline for carryouts, it might just say, if you want to look at carryouts, here's where the guideline is. So I don't have to keep reposting it and keep giving that out. As for the separation with the 55 plus, we obviously asked them to do something different. When we talk about independent living and 55 plus at the same time, and I go back to the office, I can't tell you how many calls and visits I get where people get confused about the material. That's why we're keeping it separate. For the most part, the people that are independent living are usually the ones that ask me about the 55 plus. And the 55 plus people aren't asking me about anything. We gave them a separate letter and gave them multiple times on a night and on a weekend where we could do it, because a lot of them work still. There's really no interest in having this. They have different interests than the independent living residents, and that's okay. So we are gonna look at how we can keep them up to date on anything that they request needed to be up to date on, but most of them don't have a lot of questions. If they do, they're keeping them to themselves because they had a whole blank piece of paper, they could spell them out to us. We've had focus studies, and there really wasn't a lot of questions from the 55 plus group. So a lot of the questions about 55 plus come from independent living residents. And I think that's where it gets a little confusing, because if I'm in here and I see you and I know you're an independent living resident and you're asking a question, but I didn't hear you say this is a 55 plus question, I just think it's about independent living because I know you're an independent living resident. So that's kind of why we want to keep it as separate as possible. It just doesn't mesh well. There's been some serious arguments in my office from some residents about what I've said, so I don't want anybody to be arguing about that. It gets a little heated sometimes. I'm hoping that this covered the majority of what everybody wants. I don't mind having these conversations with everybody. I will just say once again, the thought of what things used to be and getting the details to things is not always doable. I know I'm almost out of time. I do want to touch on this as the example. The pool and the hot tub, sorry, I did skip that, didn't mean to. It has not been the same problem every time something breaks. I think that was here since the very beginning though, so it's not new. It does take longer to get parts now because it's not new. I have a hot tub at my house. It's 6 years old. It's probably ancient in the hot tub world. Those parts become harder and harder to get, so the people that service them usually take a little bit longer to get the parts. So when they have to put that on hold, it's not like if the hot tub was a year old, that'd be fine, no big deal. They'd have a part right away. Here's the reality. No place have I ever been a consumer or working there where if you can make repairs, you say, forget it, we're just gonna get brand new. That doesn't usually happen. There's a reason. It's going to take a lot, it's going to be a lot shut down, and it's going to cost a lot of money to just put a new one in there when all we have to do is hold out for a part. It does take a little bit longer to get the parts though. I have this little thing I like to call a wish list, and I make it and I kind of put it up to the top, up to Lexi and Sage. These are the things that we would all love. If I can have something, these are the things that I would love. I would love a brand new hot tub. I would love to get, certain things done. So they're not something that becomes higher on the priority. It's not a must because they can find the parts. So when I say I would love a brand new hot tub, off the top of my head, I have no idea how much that's gonna cost. You're gonna have to break up the cement. You're gonna have to get a new hot tub in there. Then you're gonna have to re-cement it. It's not gonna be cheap. So right now, I know when I say I would love a brand new hot tub, they're gonna say, I would love you to get the $150 part. And I'm gonna say, yes, that's what we're gonna do, is get the $150 part. Doesn't mean that I let things go and they disappear. So why am I saying this? We can't give details to everything that happens. When the person comes out we call somebody, we need you to come out, service the hot tub. They give us, we're coming Monday. Doesn't always mean they're gonna show on Monday. Maybe there was an emergency, maybe they got sick, maybe something happened. So they come on Tuesday. Now they're gonna come on Tuesday, they tell us, we're gonna order the part. Okay, we do follow up with them. Where is the part? How is it going? A lot of people want to know the entire steps. Who are you calling? When did you call them? What did they say? We're not doing that. It's a lot of work, and it's just not a part of a process that anybody is doing. You live here. We're running the place, you're living here. We'll give you the information we can give you, but telling you every step of the way, this is who we called, this is the date they came, Fred got sick, he didn't show up, he had to send Bill. Bill had already had a list of things to do because Fred got sick. Sam quit. Now the company said you're lower on the priority. Then they ordered the part. Did they order the part? Where is the part coming from? Is the part on hold? Is it coming from overseas? There's so many things that can happen. It's just way too much information. We try to get things done as fast as we can. We are at the mercy of other people at times. So that is what holds things up sometimes. Things do not work the way they used to. I would love if they did. I'm just gonna say, I should have been born in a different generation because I like things to work very orderly, and things are not like that these days. There's a lot of lack of follow-through from a lot of places and a lot of people. There is a lack of work ethic from a lot of places, and there's just a lack of general care or concern or pride out there. And unfortunately, it really makes your day almost impossible on getting things accomplished the way they probably got accomplished in the past. So I know nobody wants to hear that. It's just the reality of what happens now. I'm afraid to see what things are going to be doing 20 years from now. It scares me to see how quickly jobs and industry are declining. So you should feel grateful that you were working in a time where everybody cared and wanted to get things done. It's just a time right now where it's so hard to find good employees. It's hard to get people that have work ethic and integrity, and even the owners don't have follow through on a lot of things. I've tried to have a contractor to my own house. They just don't even show up half the time. It's really a sad, scary way that business works nowadays, and it's frustrating. So we try not to give you too much of that information because some people just get burned out and frustrated. Well, then you should have called this person, you should have called that person. Well, that's not true, that couldn't have happened. I'm asking you, let us run things. We'll run it. You can live here. We want to hear what's important to you, but we're not going to give details about who we contacted, the day that they said they were going to service, what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, why it didn't happen, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes when we contact a vendor and say, your guy didn't show up, they don't feel the need to tell us why they didn't show up. They say, okay, we'll send somebody else out and here's the date. That's just the way that business is working these days. I try to contact as many owners of businesses as possible to get a relationship going with them and see if that will be helpful, or I try to use people that I've used in the past that I know I have a good relationship with. But I'm not taking away from who knows the property, so if they know the property, we're gonna have them come. I hope this was at least beneficial to some of you and that you got some of the answers that you needed. A lot of these answers we've talked about repetitively, so I'm not sure, kind of makes me feel like we've talked about it a lot, so I'm not sure if it's just not being heard correctly or if there's a different way I can get the information out there. We will do another one of these maybe next quarter if this was seen as beneficial, and we will try to get all the questions and answers out to everybody as we can identify the best way to do it.